You know that old saying, history tends to repeat itself? Well, never in the history of the Bay Area housing market has it ever been like this. The data for January 2022 is finally out, and let me tell you, what we're seeing right now in the Bay Area housing market is unlike anything that we've ever seen before. The inventory levels are just so low. They are so suppressed, and one might have thought that now that in January, we would have seen maybe a little bit more homes come on the market here in January, February, March, but that is not the case. And we're going to share all that data and all those statistics right now. But before we get into the data, before we get into the numbers, if you are a home buyer in today's marketplace and you're looking for a comprehensive data set to assist you in your home buying decision making, you can text the word data plus the zip code or the neighborhood or the area that you're looking in, and we'll get that information sent straight to your inbox. And if you're a home seller in today's marketplace and you're wondering, is now the right time for me to sell? Or if I am going to sell, where should I price my property at? All of that information will be delivered straight to your inbox when you text the word data plus your property address to the number down below. The narrative here for the last 3-4 months or so in the Bay Area housing market has been the incredibly suppressed inventory levels. And even since COVID hit, we haven't really seen the resurgence in inventory that we would have expected to see. I mean, we've talked about low inventory now for, like 18, 20 months now at this point. The low inventory talk is not front page news, but what is front page news is just what is happening right now at the beginning of 2022 when you look at how this is different than what was going on at the same time last year, because I think we can all agree that history tends to repeat itself. But what we're seeing here is unlike what we're seeing in previous years before for a lot of reasons, but namely because the discrepancy or the delta between how many homes are pending versus how many homes are listed or active, it's just so much greater than we're used to seeing at this time of year. And so one can only assume that if these trends continue, it's going to be a brutal spring market for all of the home buyers out there in pretty much every major county here in the San Francisco Bay Area. For example, let's just pop right on over to Santa Clara County. Now, what you're seeing here in January, 791 homes pending versus 439 homes active on the market. Now, if you look at the same time last year, we had 861 homes on the market. So we've nearly halved the amount of homes for sale. And if you look at that delta, you look at how aggressive that delta is between pending sales and active inventory. We're in a situation where if this trend continues, say into February, March, April, let's see what happened in February, March, April of last year here in Santa Clara County. Did you see how dramatic that delta gets? And by the way, the wider that delta gets, the more competitive the market is, the hotter it is. And so if we're already starting out here in January where the delta is that big, where really that was the delta that we were seeing in February of last year. So it either means one of two things. It either means that we are going to experience the whitest of white hot buyers market or sellers markets that we've ever seen here in the Bay Area, or we're going to get a premature spring market and it's all going to fizzle out by, say, late March, early April. I think we all know which one is going to happen, because right now the difference is the low inventory. Unless inventory levels double over the course of the next 90 days, I just don't see that second narrative playing out where we experience a fizzling out of the market prematurely sooner than we're used to experiencing, at least here in the springtime. Now, flipping over to San Mateo County, this county is very interesting because you see the January stats here and we're seeing basically neutral levels of pending versus demand. In other words, we're seeing practically the same amount of homes pending as there are active for sale. Now, if you look back a year though, you'll observe that we actually had less homes pending than on the market. So if you look back a year ago, we're in a better market for home sellers than we were in a year ago here in San Mateo County. Now, what is interesting is how much ground inventory is made up in just 1 month. You look at December of this last year, 153 homes for sale, and we've jumped up to almost double that in a month. So a lot of home sellers got wise and put their homes on in the market early on in 2022. And there's still plenty of time remaining, but time will tell what kind of impact that's going to have. Will we see a leveling off of inventory, or will we see inventory double again? It could go either way right now. This is a market to pay attention to, because what happens in San Mateo County usually has an after effect in Santa Clara County and as well as Alameda and Contra Costa County, because these are all markets where when people get priced out of the A areas in San Mateo County, they tend to flock to Contra Costa, to Alameda, to parts of Santa Clara County. So let's pay attention to San Mateo County. The verdict is still out. If there's one county that's intriguing to me at this point, it's San Mateo County. We all know what's happening in Alameda. We know what's going to happen in Contra Costa. We know what's going to happen in Santa Clara County. And to a lesser degree, we all know what's going to happen in San Francisco, San Benito. But this one is interesting. I'm not 100% sold that the market is going to be white hot in San Mateo County. So let's see how this all unfolds here over the next 30 to 60 days. Let's stay tuned. I almost made a video about 2 weeks ago how San Francisco could experience a resurgence here in 2022, but I'm really glad now that I didn't make that video, because now I'm starting to see some trends here that make me think otherwise. Because if you look at what's happening here in January of 2022 in San Francisco, you'll see that inventory levels went up about 30-40% here between December and January. And that was not expected. I was not expecting to see such a huge upswing in inventory levels so soon now at the beginning parts of 2020. Usually it takes a good 30 to 60 days after the new year for inventory levels to really start to pick up. So I was surprised. I was really surprised to see this. And so let's continue to monitor this. I'm frankly a little confused as to why this is happening, especially in San Francisco, because normally I would have seen something like this coming, where I expected the market to continue to go up in San Francisco. But now we're starting to see indications that the market could level off again in the city, or potentially, if things continue to go this way, even go down. Let's see what it really all depends on inventory. If inventory levels can stabilize, great. But if they shoot back up to where they were, say in November of 2020, which we're still a long ways away from there, we're at a third of that amount of homes on the market. So I'm not saying that that's going to happen soon, but I was just maybe a little bit disappointed to see that the inventory levels, well, disappointed in the sense that we're rooting for San Francisco right now. I think we can all collectively agree, like, San Francisco is really hurting. And so I think we're all rooting for them. I have many agents in San Francisco right now that are actually benefiting from this, because there's more homes for their buyers to choose from than they were expecting. And so I have agents right now who are in a good spot with their buyers, where they originally thought that they weren't going to be in such a great spot. So San Francisco is one to keep our eye on here moving forward. But let's see how those inventory levels play out here in the spring season. And pay attention to demand too, because even though the supply went up, the demand did go up as well in correlation with the inventory. So let's continue to monitor that. I'm not 100% sold one way or the other. It's almost like a too early to tell kind of situation. Not much to report here with San Benito County. It's been fairly neutral here for like the last 9 months, meaning we haven't really seen inventory or pending sales dip relative to one another. So we're really seeing a very stable market, a very stable seller's market, albeit because we have absorption rates of nearly 100% almost every single month. And let's see how inventory levels and pendings do in February, because I think that will give us a really good litmus test as to what's going to happen in the spring market for San Benito. Will we experience something very similar to what we saw in 2021, where all of a sudden the pending sales just took off? Or are we going to experience something similar to what we saw in like 2019 in San Benito County, where it's fairly consistent all year round? And finally, Alameda County, as well as Contra Costa County, very similar stories here. Starting with Alameda, we're seeing 654 homes pending right now in January versus 463 homes active. Compare that to a year ago where we had 640 homes active. So still about 30% more homes active and only 782 homes pending. So really only a slight bump in pending sales versus where we're at right now. So the demand relative to the supply right now in January of 2022 is hotter than we're used to seeing. And so what does this mean? What does this mean for home buyers? Well, very similar to what we're seeing in Santa Clara County. We could see a premature spring season, or we could see an even hotter spring market than we're used to seeing. Either one of those could happen. I'm not ruling either one of those out right now, but I'm leaning more towards the latter simply because of the suppressed inventory levels relative to where they were, say, even a year ago and where they are normally. So it all adds up. All signs point to it's going to be hot. It's going to be hotter than hot, and it's going to be hotter than hot for many, many months. Same thing goes here in Contra Costa County, where we had 414 homes active right now versus a year ago, 548 homes active. You look at the pending sales, 731 homes pending right now in January versus 920 homes pending a year ago. So pending's moving more in line with inventory levels in Contra Costa versus Alameda, but the same principles apply here. In January, we're seeing lower than normal inventory levels. And so I would expect this to carry through the spring months. When will the tides turn? Well, I've made plenty of videos on that, so I'm not going to go into that in this video, but still, way too early to tell exactly what's going to happen in the marketplace moving forward this spring and this summer. I think we all kind of have some intuition based on this data, what's going to happen, but especially in parts like San Mateo County and San Francisco, it's still a little iffy. And so who knows? I mean, those markets do impact the rest of the marketplaces. So if we see a slower than anticipated San Francisco market and San Mateo County market, how does that reflect into Santa Clara County and San Benito and Alameda, Contra Costa, Napa, Solana, all of those counties? Really, we have no idea what the impact is going to be if we see a weaker market than we were anticipating in San Francisco and San Mateo County. So still lots to uncover and lots to really pay attention to moving forward into the spring market. But if there's one thing that I know for sure, I'm going to be here giving you the real play-by-play, the real-time play-by-play action, because that's what we love doing here at Selling Silicon Valley. If you've watched all the way through the end of this video and you're not already subscribed to this channel, what are you waiting for? Go ahead and do me a favor. Just click the subscribe button and that little notification bell. It really goes a long way to helping us get in front of more people just like you. Stats from last week show that 94% of our viewers aren't subscribed yet to our channel, which means that we still have a lot of room to grow, but it also makes me realize that I'm not asking enough. And so I'm just asking you, if you could do anything for me at the end of this video, just click that subscribe button right down below, notification bell, and a little thumbs up. It would really help me out. This is Danny Gould, everyone, Selling Silicon Valley, and I will catch all of you in the next Silicon Valley Snapshot.